What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the Tide Talk podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. Stacey Blackwood here with Jake Thomas. Jake, what's up, buddy?
Man, doing good. I had a safe trip in from a little extended vacation for the weekend, and we come back today. But man, heartbreak this weekend, and we'll get into it. But man, kind of ruined my weekend to be honest with you, and my vacation.
Yeah, I hate the Tide ruined your vacation, Jake. But well, like you said, we'll talk more about that. The chat is open for those that are just tuning in. So make sure you jump in the chat and kind of give us your thoughts on the Alabama's tough loss to Texas A&M this past weekend. But before we really dive into much of that, I do want to tell you about our friends over at betonline.ag. Football season is back, and all the eyes are on the football field. So make sure you head on over to betonline.ag, which is the number one spot for all your pro and college football action. Head on to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Don't forget to use our promo code BELIEVE to receive your bonus. That's BLEAV. From football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. Bet Online is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports. Bet Online, where the game starts. All right, guys. Really excited to be back with another episode of the podcast. Good to have Jake back from his vacation. Like he mentioned a minute ago, the Alabama game kind of put a little damper on his trip, but he made it back home safe, so we're thankful for that. But yeah, it was a tough loss, Jake. We're going to talk about that, as the show moves along. But the chat is open, so jump in there, give us your thoughts and opinions, and we'll be sure to read those. And if you're not subscribed already, hit that subscribe button, whether it's on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, just wherever you get great podcasts. Jake, might as well just kind of get it out of the way. Let's talk a little bit about what happened in the Texas A&M game. Uh, just just your initial thoughts, Jake, when you were watching the game live, your emotions throughout that game, and kind of your thought process watching the Tide play on Saturday night.
Honestly, I was, starting out, I was dumbfounded because, my gosh, it went up 17-7. It was halftime 17-7. I was like, what the crap is going on? This was not the top Alabama performance I was expecting. Especially the way A&M has been playing. Now, I understand everybody gives Alabama their A plus effort, and usually Alabama steps up to the plate and goes A plus plus when that happens, and usually may struggle in a half and then dominate the second half. But Saturday night just felt different, and I don't know what it was, but it was almost Johnny Manziel-esque because Cal, I made fun of him, but it's Calzada, but I called him Calzone the whole game. But the dude played out of his mind, and he has not done that against anybody this year. And to have that kind of performance against Alabama, it was crazy. But yes, I did crush a water bottle. Thank goodness it was empty. But yeah, I was pretty ticked. But hats went flying across the room. Sunglasses luckily didn't break, but they went flying across the room too. But it was just very disappointing. So
Yeah, it was disappointing because Alabama left a lot of points on the
oh my
field
gosh.
that they could have scored more than what they did. Defensively, the inconsistency is just it's baffling. It really is. There's too much talent, too much experience on that defense for so many lapses, for so many miscommunications or miscalls or missed assignments, whatever it is. There's too much talent and experience for that to happen. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so it's just very. I'm not sure the effect that the Malachi Moore ejection had on the
Right.
game, but it did make some sort of impact on the game, especially in the first half, because the defense did finally make adjustments at halftime and played much better in the second half. But Jake, when we needed them to make a play and make a stop, they didn't do it late in the
No.
game. They
No.
didn't do it. They busted the
Mm-mm.
coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Had a chance to hold them to a long field goal attempt there at the end of the game, but we get a pass interference call because we can't get our head turned around and play the football.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing after another, and it's very frustrating to watch when you know the amount of talent that is there on that side of the football for Alabama.
Yeah, and I got 3 points I want to make real quick. First off, the defense, since we're talking about it. I mean, we have several players that are 3-year starters on that defense, and they're still missing assignments.
Yep.
I mean, that should never happen. I know Toa Toa is new, especially in our system, but I mean, he started at Tennessee, and he's really good. So he's busted several plays, not just in this game. I'm just talking about the whole season.
Yeah. Yeah.
The entire defense missed coverages. Point number two: when you have Brian Robinson in the backfield, you do not pass 30 times within the 15-yard line.
Hey, we'll talk about that
too
here in a minute. But and I see what you're saying. Go ahead and go give your third point real quick.
The third point was to honestly, the NCAA needs to reevaluate the targeting rule because that is absolute crap. If they got Malachi for targeting, but didn't get their guy for hitting our guy, I mean, it was helmet to helmet contact. I don't care if he led it with his shoulder first. He did hit him helmet to helmet and didn't cut and didn't get it. We got to review that. I mean, that's bull crap.
Yeah, I want to talk about that for just a second because I don't even know what targeting is anymore, Jake. It's ridiculous.
It is.
And I don't want to hear their crap about player safety because the hit that was much more detrimental to the player was the one on Billingsley, not the one on Texas A&M's quarterback from Malachi Moore when he barely bumped him.
I know. Yeah.
So if it was about player safety, they would throw the player out that took the risk of hurting the other player the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't want to hear their crap about it being about player safety. And I don't want to hear their crap about being about player safety when they let people dive at each other's knees when ACLs are being torn every other snap.
Right. Exactly.
It's not about player safety. It's about perception. That's what it's about for them. It's not really about the players. It's about their perception of protecting players' heads from injuries.
Right.
It's a joke. It's a big joke. And pass interference calls are a joke too. I'm not talking about the DeMarco Hellens one,
right?
But I'm just saying overall, pass interference is a joke, guy. I mean, the defensive player has no chance nowadays.
No.
If he has just a fingertip on an opposing wide receiver, I don't care what school he's at, they're calling a flag. It's ridiculous.
It is.
There's a lot that needs to be looked at, and it's easy to get fired up about this stuff after your team loses, which, fortunately for us, that's just the first time in the last 20 games that Alabama's lost. So
19-1.
Yeah, 19-1 over the last 20. I'll take that any day of the week. But more specifically about this game, Jake, defensively, here's my problem with the defense. Not only do we give up yardage and points to great offensive teams and I don't have a problem with that because to the great offensive teams, they're going to put some points on you because, great offense always, pretty much beats great defense. That's just the way it is. But Jake, we don't smother the offenses that we should smother.
No.
Southern Miss had no reason to score 14 points against us.
No.
Mercer had no reason to score 14 points against us.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean is when the defense doesn't smother the teams that they should smother, there's your sign that you may have a little bit of a problem. And, I've defended Pete Golding because 2019, I even today, that 2019 was not on Pete Golding. That defense had a horrific amount of injuries.
Oh, yeah.
And then 2019, I thought he was turning the corner because they played much better. But this 2021 defense is about the same as it was last year, and there's better players on this defense than there was last year, minus Patrick Surtain. But the truth is our corners have played pretty well. It's pretty much everybody else.
Yeah.
It's the middle of the defense. It's the safeties. It's the inside linebackers. And the interior defensive lineman outside of Fedarian Mathis. So it's just frustrating to watch these guys when you know what they can be and they're not living up to that potential.
And you brought up the 2019 defense. I'm going to go back a few years, before that. You know, this defense now, it does not do a good job stopping the run in the middle, up the middle. Back in 2015, 2016, I mean, Alabama smothered runs up the middle. This
Yeah.
defense has holes as big
Now,
as.
and I'll say this: there's no doubt we have talent right now, but we don't have Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne talent on the middle of that
I,
defensive line. So I mean,
I
it's
understand
different
that.
when you got 2 first round NFL dudes on the
Hmm.
interior of the defensive line compared to, I mean, Phil Mathis will be probably a second round pick, but
Right.
we don't have any right now first round picks on that interior defensive line. So that plays a little bit into it, but outside of a couple runs they had in the first half, Alabama done a pretty good job against Texas A&M. I mean,
Hmm.
held them to I think 3.5 yards per carry. That's not great, but it's not bad. Uh, pretty much shut the entire running game down in the second half. They didn't do anything in the second half on the ground. So, uh, but I agree, it could be better. It should be better.
Yeah.
But the busting coverages, the missed tackles in open space, uh, I'm just sick of it. I mean, all I can say.
Yeah. I don't. I don't know. It's kind of frustrating because we talked about. I mean, we hyped up all summer long with this
Yeah, we
defense,
did.
and I mean, and there's no excuse for this defense to have so many busted coverages and everything else going on with it right now. And like I said, I mean, maybe it's 50-50. Half of it's on coaching, half of it's on the players to go out there and execute the plays that they're given. They're not doing that. So I mean, and I've been one of these that's been on Pete Golden for the past couple of years, but I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt this year. So I'm still trying to do that, but I mean, it's obvious something is not right with the defense.
Yeah, and we've kind of talked about this before. I don't know if it was kind of between us or on the show, but it it seems like we just need to simplify the defense, man.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it feels like it's just overly complicated,
Hmm.
and maybe that's why there's so many busted coverages. I don't have the answers. If I had the answers, I would be the coach that's making $10 million a year right now at Alabama. But I'm not that guy. I'm just here to
Right.
give my opinion. But
Right.
I don't know. I feel like it may be time. I'm not saying Pete Golden's a bad defensive coordinator because he's not. He's a good defensive coordinator. I mean, he's a good defensive coordinator. But at Alabama, you need a great defensive coordinator. We deserve
Hmm.
a great defensive coordinator.
Right.
So I just, do you think eh, that Pete will be back after this year? Just that's kind of a
I, that's a good question. I don't have that answer. Like you
yeah.
said, Saban's got that answer. I'm going to tell you one other thing about the defense that the other from Saturday night. We got no pressure on Calzada at all, and
Yeah.
and they were starting two
Yeah.
true freshman offensive linemen, and we got zero pressure. That's kind of concerning too. I mean, I know. I mean, really, Drew Sanders out. He's a really good pass rusher, and of course Will Anderson. But I mean, other than that, somebody besides Mathis, somebody on that front defensive front has got to step up. And we don't hear much about Justin and Boogeby. We don't hear much about him. DJ Dale, I think he had a couple of tackles on the night, but you don't hear much about him in games. Somebody's got to step up besides Mathis, besides Anderson, besides Drew Sanders, besides Christian Harris on that front 7, 8 guys right there. Somebody's got to step up.
Yeah, the pass rush needs to be better, but A&M kept a lot of guys in, and it was they run a lot of 6 and even 7-man protections
Mhm.
throughout that game. So I mean that had a lot to do with it. But the interior pass rush needs to step it up. I mean, right now the only 2 guys that even pose some sort of threat in the pass rush is Mathis and Anderson. So
Mhm.
that definitely needs to kind of get sorted out. I don't know if they need to bring more guys, but Malachi Moore, and that's why I brought the Malachi Moore getting ejected. Something that he is, I kind of say he specializes in is blitzing.
You're right.
From the secondary, and maybe we had that planned in the game. What I'm trying to do, I'm not trying to defend Pete Golding. But they have a game plan going into games. Maybe the game plan, because Malachi Moore has kind of been rotating in and out with Brian Branch, but Moore
Right.
got the start this week. Maybe the
Hmm.
plan this week was to bring Malachi in a lot on blitz packages, and
Hmm.
and maybe maybe that was kind of their game plan moving, going into that game. And he gets ejected there on the first series, and it kind of throws a wrinkle in their game plan, and they couldn't really adjust to the second half. So, and the truth is, Texas A&M just come out firing on all cylinders. They hit us right in the mouth,
Yep.
and we couldn't respond and couldn't really get on our feet until the second half. And kudos to the guys for coming out in the second half, and they played their rear ends off and got back in it and had a chance to win. But Texas A&M made the plays the last 4 minutes of the game, and Alabama didn't, and that was what decided the game
Yeah. Absolutely.
along with a plethora of other things throughout the game. All right, we've talked about the defense. We're going to talk about the offense here in just a second, but real quick, the chat is open. So if you got any questions or comments, jump in there right now, and we'll be sure to read those and answer those the best we can. Jake, we did have a question kind of leading up to talking about the offense from Steven
Yep.
on Twitter. And I'm just kind of remember off the top of my head, he was asking, does Bryce Young, does he have the ability to change the plays, at the line of scrimmage? And if so, why wouldn't he have changed to some running plays, there inside the 15-yard line? The truth is, we don't know the answer to that. I would assume
Right.
that he has some kind of freedom within the offense to make some plays, but it may just be check with me's where he looks at the sideline and they give him the second play call. So not sure on that, but I'm not going to put any of this on Bryce Young. I'm not putting a bit of this game on Bryce Young. It was his sixth start. I mean, he's going to throw interceptions, man. He's going to make mistakes.
Hmm.
But you know who shouldn't be making mistakes? John Mechie should not be dropping passes.
No.
Jaleel Billingsley should not be dropping passes.
No.
I mean, it's just, I mean, I don't know how many drop passes we had, but it was a bunch. And they
Hmm.
were all critical drops, either
They
first
were.
downs,
Hmm.
Latu's was a touchdown.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just that part I cannot explain. Drops have been an issue all year long. So, uh, it's kind of hard to even really think about that. All right, we got
There's Steven again.
yeah, man, Bill O'Brien. Look, it's easy to question play calling, especially sitting on the couch. But
Right.
anybody who doesn't think Alabama should have ran the ball more than what they did inside the 15-yard line, I don't know what you're watching. Uh, we ran the ball we passed the ball 8 of 10 plays that we had inside the 15-yard line. That's inexcusable.
It is.
Brian Robinson was averaging 6 yards a carry. He was plowing over dudes. He was running his tail off, and he was carrying that offense. And for some reason, we didn't give him the ball enough. Jake, we threw the ball 48 times in that game, and Brian Robinson only had 24 carries. There is no way we should double up his rushing attempts in a game. No way.
Negative. No. I mean, Brian Robinson right now needs to be the workhorse on the
Yeah.
offensive side of the ball. I
Yep.
mean, he's earned it because I mean he's like you said he's been getting better and better each week, and like but I'm with you. There's nothing on Bryce on this game. Uh, Bryce, like you said, he's making his sixth start, and I mean, and to me, he's still learning, a little bit, like everything. There's Stacy's son on the screen.
Sorry, guys, we got a
Hey,
little bit of interruption here.
yeah, but
Tell him, hey, Barrett.
Barrett, what you doing, boy? But
But no, yeah, I mean, Brian Robinson needs to be the workhorse of this offense.
yeah,
He is, he seems like he's kind of turned into, a guy that could carry the team. Much like, I don't want to compare him to Derrick Henry, but it may need to be like that this year moving forward. We need to feed him because he seems like he's a guy who gets better as the game goes on, as the defense wears out, and
hmm
late in that fourth quarter, Jake, that defense was gas for Texas A&M, and we should have fed Brian Robinson the
oh my
ball as
gosh,
many times
yes,
as possible.
yeah, absolutely.
Hey, and Steven, to answer your question about
Mhm.
JoJo and Kool-Aid, um, I don't know where maybe Kool-Aid could find a place at one of the safeties. Uh, but I mean, I don't have many complaints about Job or Jalen Armour Davis. I feel like they've played pretty solid. I mean, Job every once in a while he's going to get one penalty a game, but man, when you get thrown out a lot, it's going to happen. So, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
especially in today's game, they're flag happy. Devin's got a
Absolutely.
question. Says, what would you say the biggest factor in the game was? Was it the Malachi Moore ejection, Bryce Young's interceptions, B Rod's fumble, pass interference on last drive? I would first of all, I'm not putting that fumble on B Rob.
No.
I mean, my kids are in the background now, um, so for your entertainment. But I would say that uh, it's the biggest issue was it was all of those things. It was drop passes to me.
Mm-hmm.
The drop
Yeah.
passes were the killers. Um, especially Latu's in the end zone. You can't drop a touchdown pass. Uh, John Mechie dropped a couple first down plays. Billingsley on our last possession dropped one. So it's just frustrating. So um, I think it's a multitude of all those things, and just I don't know how to explain it. It's just a bunch of different things. So it just is what it is. And I'll be right back, Jake. You carried on.
You good. Uh, anyway, guys, Devin, to me, I'm with Stacey on that. I, it was a combination of all of those things. It kind of started out with Malachi's ejection, which, we talked about earlier in the show. The targeting call has got to be changed. I mean, I'm sorry, I did not believe that was targeting at all. Um, and then later on in the game, they went after one of our guys, and it wasn't called targeting. So, and that was a clear helmet to helmet hit. So I don't understand, the targeting rule. But again, Bryce Young, I'm not throwing this on him, and I don't understand some of the backlash towards him right now, because Bryce Young is making the sixth start. You can't blame him for the offensive woes that's happening. I mean, he's throwing. I mean, there was a couple of passes that were behind receivers the other night, but other than that, I mean, he's throwing perfect balls and they're just dropping them. I mean, that's been happening all year. B Rob, other than the fumble, he's been pretty much consistent. You know, pretty much our pretty much a big offensive guy running the
Yeah.
ball.
Yeah, I'm back. By the way,
Yeah.
guys, I'm sorry about that. My kids. I mean, what you do? You get when you got kids, you got kids. But
Right.
and I want to touch on this. The
Yeah.
fumble was not on Brian Robinson. That
No.
was Bryce Young's fault.
Yeah.
But I go back to play calling, Jake.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many fullback dives have we ran in the last 10 years?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, how many times has Bryce Young ever handed off to a fullback in his life? Think
I know.
about that. I mean, why would you put your players in that situation? Just line up in the I formation and hand it to Brian Robinson up the middle.
Yeah.
And if they stop it, they stop it.
I mean, 4 straight plays at the 1 yard line. Just
I
give it
just
the ball. I mean,
I don't get that. And like I said, I don't like bashing coaches or players either one
no.
because that they've forgotten more about football than what I'll ever know. But it's frustrating to watch when the team doesn't they allow a team that is inferior to them to beat them. I mean,
Right.
a couple years ago when Clemson was just better than us in the national championship game, that is what it
Understandable.
is. That is what it is. But
Yeah.
Texas A&M is not better than us.
No.
And
No.
Alabama had no business losing to a team with a backup quarterback and several backup offensive linemen. It just shouldn't happen. And maybe it's a wake up call for those guys, but
I hope it is, because the thing that frustrates me the most is I understand that A&M beginning of the season they were hyped up to pretty much challenge Alabama, but I mean they're starting quarterbacks out, and Calzada has not looked good. They have not been able to establish a run in any of their ball games. I mean, they only scored 10 points against Colorado, but yet they come out and just do whatever they wanted to at will against us, against the number one team in the nation. I that just don't set good with me. And I mean, we could not do anything against them, and it was just frustrating beyond words. You know,
And if you look at the box score outside of the final score, Alabama dominated, man. I mean, they
oh
had
yeah,
143 more yards than what Texas A&M had.
hmm
Just what happened inside the 15-yard line for Alabama,
that's where's that?
it was inexcusable, Jake. We
Hmm
took the ball out of the players' hands that was
hmm
making plays for us, and that was Brian Robinson. He,
Absolutely,
I don't get it, man. I don't get it. And
and
I do want to point out something. Jamison Williams is a dog,
he
dude.
is.
That man showed up in the second half, and he played his rear end off, man. I mean, he helped the Alabama team get back in the game in the second half, and he was a real
hmm
difference maker. And what would this team be like without the Ohio State receiver transfer?
Oh, absolutely. And Devin just commented there.
Yeah, hey, yeah,
It could be.
dude, that's a dangerous combination, man. They
It
seem like
is.
they're starting to, and I'll say this about our wide receivers: they are getting more separation than they
Mhm.
were earlier in the year against defenders, and so that part is getting better. But the drops have got to stop. I mean, that's just
Just
inexcusable. I mean,
it is.
that's football 1-on-1. If you can't, catch it, I mean, I can't do much for you.
What is Bryce Young's completion percentage right now? Do you know
He's probably
roundabout?
right around probably 70%.
So I mean, adding the drops that should have been caught, he would be probably about 72, 73%, or maybe
And
more.
yeah,
Maybe more.
yeah, probably it's
I
between.
mean, that's only 2, 3 points difference, but still,
Well,
I mean,
Jake. Okay,
you know,
it just takes one. I mean, if Cameron
right?
Latou holds on to the one he had,
Yeah,
Alabama wins. So I mean,
exactly,
one drop can make all the difference.
absolutely.
And I'm not
Yeah,
putting it on Cameron Latou.
no,
Cameron Latou is not why we lost the game.
no.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying we lost the game because we couldn't consistently catch the ball. We
hmm
didn't consistently run Brian Robinson.
hmm
And even with the way the defense played, if we had done those two things on offense, Alabama wins the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you want to talk about? Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good question.
yeah. That's what I was going to talk
I
about, the offensive line.
I would say partially because we do have a quarterback who was just making his sixth start, uh, and we have a left guard who was just making his sixth start, a center who was just making his sixth start. And the center's the one making the calls. So I mean, I think that has something to do with it. I think uh, Bill O'Brien obviously has something to do with it. Doug Marrone, the offensive line coach, has something to do with that. I'm not sure what took so long, but uh, the right tackle position, Jake, we're just we're we're decent there, but we're not great. I mean, it's just the truth.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I mean, you know, I seen a lot of comments after the game about Chris Owens' situation and this and Dalcourt, but I want to, I one during the game, somebody, I seen on Twitter and social media, they was just dogging Chris Owens for a sack, but the sack wasn't Chris Owens' fault because it come from the left hand side. That I mean, they sent two extra blitzers on the left hand side, and B Rock would only get one of them. So I mean, that wasn't on Chris Owens, but yeah, I mean, we talked about it, and not nothing to Chris Owens. We said he's probably going to be kind of the weak point on the offensive, on the offensive line.
Right.
But I feel like he's getting better. But is there could we potentially move him back in at center? Because a lot of people has been talking about Dalcourt and his snaps. He did a whole lot better snapping wise this week.
Yeah.
But Chris is kind of more he's more comfortable at center, and maybe Latham or Randolph, somebody else can get that right tackle position. Look at just for a week or two to see how it goes. Is
Yeah,
that something that
I'm not gonna rule out anything. I
right?
imagine that there's some discussion being made about the offensive line this week. Uh, and I imagine there's probably some discussion being made at other positions as well. So
Absolutely.
I don't know. I'm not sitting in those meeting rooms, so I can't tell you that. But I do think that you will see some changes. Maybe not this week, but maybe after the bye week here in a couple of weeks, you could see something. But I don't know, man. It's just I feel like we should be the defensive side of the ball is where we should be better at because of all the depth and experience. But we're just not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be okay.
We still beat y'all, Corey, so, we're fine. Why don't y'all worry about Georgia?
So Will Anderson said, basically, guys have to be about football. What is y'all's take on that? I know what I'm hearing with that, but what is your take on that remark? Yeah, I mean, maybe football is just not important to everybody on the team, and as it is to Will Anderson, and that needs to change. I mean,
absolutely.
When you're on scholarship at the University of Alabama, I mean that's number one priority. I mean, it just comes with the territory.
It sounds like he's finally stepping up to be that leader that we need. Because he said recently in a post game interview or just an interview that he wasn't really a vocal leader, but now he's starting to step up to the plate and be that vocal leader. So maybe he can start getting through to some of these guys. I mean, good question, Anthony.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about that. Just I'm not sure what's wrong with the defense. It's just not as good as it should be. We're not a terrible defense, but we're probably just average. But we have way too much talent to just be an average defense. And whatever changes need to be made, I hope Coach Saban is kind of filling that out and trying to figure it out. And hopefully then changes can be made because I don't see a team on the remaining schedule that would probably beat us. But when you get to the SEC championship game or if they happen to make it to the college football playoff, there's going to be some elite offenses then, and your defense is going to have to show up and get you some stops. So, whoa, Jake, this has nothing to do with Alabama, but John Gruden reportedly to resign.
What?
I swear it just popped up on my computer. Sorry, guys. This is just random. This is what happens when you do a live show.
Gruden now, after more emails leaked in which you used, the incentive language or whatever it is. Dag gum. And the Raiders are actually starting to actually be a good team. Now, honest opinion, just going to put it out here, just real quick on that. But I don't think anybody, player or coach, should be reprimanded or retributed, whatever it is, be in trouble for something that happened 10, 15 years ago. That's just my personal opinion.
I agree with you.
I'm sorry, but that's the kind of world we're living in now. But it's bullcrap.
Yeah, I mean, everybody on this planet has said something at some point in time that they wish they hadn't said, and they've only gotten away with it because they hadn't been caught yet. So
exactly,
it's just it's a shame that we live in that type of world right now. Because John Gruden's a good coach, and Oakland has been playing pretty well this season. So
USC, LSU, don't know. But
speaking,
reprimanded,
look. We've talked enough about this A&M game. It's over with. They lost. You're going to lose. You can't win all. You can't win them all. I mean, Alabama almost does, but you can't win them all. Is he available?
Yeah, he might be now.
He might be coming to that rehabilitation clinic.
There you go.
But let's just real quick. We're fixing to wrap the show up. We've talked enough about the game. I'm over the loss. I was over the loss the next morning when I got up because you know what? Sometimes that happens. Alabama, look, this is the way I look at it, and not everybody thinks like I do. But Texas A&M played the game of their life.
Right.
Alabama played about as poorly as they could in the first half, and then pretty poorly the last 4 minutes of the fourth quarter, and still had a great chance to win that game. Yep. I mean, the truth is, if you look at the box score, Alabama should have won that game. Right. So even with as bad as they played, you could make the argument Alabama should have won that game. So it's just one of those things. It didn't go their way. Hopefully, I don't think there's nothing about this team that can't be corrected. I hope that they find a way to correct everything. Devin brings up a good point. Final thoughts. How long has it been since Kentucky, of all teams, was undefeated when Alabama was not? Well, this late in the season, I'm not sure it's ever happened. But
right.
I mean, I'm sure there's been a time when Alabama started the season 0-1 and Kentucky started 1-0. But as far as this late in the season, this is probably a record for Kentucky.
The biggest game in Kentucky's history is this weekend.
Yeah, and they're gonna get beat. So
I mean, they're probably gonna get skull dragged. But remember, I did say they was going to finish second in the East.
Yeah. Well,
so,
look, and I'm gonna for like the next 5 minutes. Let's just talk a little bit about the rest of the SEC. Mm-hmm. Let's just start with Georgia real quick. Georgia's not unbeatable at all. I mean, Jake, there's plays to be made in that secondary. If Auburn had any receivers and a quarterback that was consistent, they would have made plenty of plays in that game against Georgia. And offensively, Stetson Bennett does not scare me.
No.
I mean, he's a good quarterback, but he's not great. Mm-hmm. Their running game is no better than Alabama's, and everybody talks like there's some kind of powerhouse running team.
Right.
I mean, give me B-Rob, man. Maybe it's my Alabama bias, but give me B-Rob. The way he's played the last 2 games, give me Brian Robinson.
Zamir White would probably be 4th on our
I wouldn't say that, but
he'd probably be 3rd behind B-Rob and Chase McClellan, I think.
Yeah, it's Mississippi State. Yes, I hate the Cowbells, but I will say this: it's a good tradition for them. So that's about all they got. So I guess we can let them have that. Is Vandy still in the SEC? Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Thoughts on Ed Orgeron, Jake? Is he gonna make it?
I doubt it.
No, he's gone.
Yeah,
he gone.
But I made an interesting case the other night on my other show, and Steven still thinks it's going to be Ed Orgeron. But my question was, what if Florida goes into Death Valley and LSU beats Florida? Who's on the hot seat more? Is it going to be Ed Orgeron or is it going to be Dan Mullen? But I still think it's
still Coach O. I mean, that place is a dumpster fire. Look, it's one thing to get beat by Kentucky. It's another thing to get skull dragged by Kentucky, and they got skull dragged.
And Butte's out for them the rest of the year too, and that's pretty much their only offense.
Oh yeah, that dude's elite. That dude is an elite wide receiver.
Yeah,
so,
they're going to struggle.
They're in trouble. They're in trouble. What else is going around the SEC right now? Tennessee has kind of been a surprise. Mm-hmm. They've played well the last couple of weeks.
Yep. I still don't think they're elite.
No. They ain't got enough dudes, but they're
Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, Hendon Hooker. He's a good player. He's a good player.
He's a good player.
And the good news is we get them at home in a night game.
Yep. Saw that.
Week after next. So that'd be pretty cool.
I want to just say last week that pretty much the best game of the week for me was that Ole Miss Arkansas Classic.
I knew there was something that I was trying to think of that I could not think of. Yes, it's that
was
game.
An amazing game. And do you fault Arkansas going for it or just going to overtime? Or do you think they should just went to overtime?
Kick the freaking extra point and go to overtime.
That's what I think.
And
KJ Jefferson had the momentum in that game,
But Jake,
mm-hmm.
If you're going to go for 2, mm-hmm. you have to tell your quarterback at least give your players a chance to catch it in the end zone. He threw it out of bounds, man.
I know. You can't do that, KJ. But yeah.
And I love Sam Pittman, Jake. But man, you got to kick that extra point and go to overtime. Take your chances there.
You had all the momentum.
I mean, I don't know. That's just my opinion. What would you have done?
I would have kicked that extra point going overtime.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just my
But that was a heck of a game. That was
It
a heck
was.
of a game. It was fun to watch.
It was. It
It
was.
got Saturday started off right. Unfortunately, Alabama didn't end it on too good of a note, but
Right.
uh, props to Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher being the first assistant to beat Nick Saban. Now people can finally stop talking about that. I'm so sick of hearing about that, man.
I
I'm so
know.
glad that's over with. So is the 100 game winning streak over unranked opponents. That's over with.
Yep.
But it is what it is. I mean, you
I
can't
mean,
win them all.
stri-
If we win the next 19 out of 20 like we did this time,
I'll be happy.
I'll be just fine.
And streets are made to be broken. So
That's right.
I
That's
mean,
right. I mean, you can't win them all. Let's
yeah.
see here.
I mean, because Alabama's really got a great quarterback. I have not heard that yet. I heard a lot of people talk about it, but I've not heard the song yet.
Okay, I'm just gonna have to. I have no idea what you're talking about, Steven.
There's some kind of song.
I'm not a hipster.
Yeah. There's some kind of song that I think a Georgia person put out, maybe a Tennessee person that's talking about they hate Bama, but a lot of people like it, including Alabama fans. But I haven't heard it yet.
I'm assuming it's a song. Is that what it is?
Yeah,
A song?
it's a song. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know. I haven't.
See,
I haven't
y'all. I
looked up
mean,
yet.
I'm letting some skeletons out. I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, but Stephen, what's your thoughts on it? Sounds like you've heard it. So, but the Alabama. I want to say this final thought as we wait for Stephen to chime in, but Alabama still control its own destiny, and the rest of their schedule plays out really well for them. But I mean, Arkansas and maybe Auburn at Auburn is the biggest challenges left. So I just, they still have a chance to win out. We get in the SEC championship game, and anything can happen then. So
I'll say this: I think Tennessee is more of a threat to Alabama than Arkansas is, simply because Arkansas's offense doesn't threaten me as much as Tennessee's offense does.
yeah.
So,
and having them at home, like you said, is huge.
Yeah, that's big. We have both those teams at home. So,
right.
What the only away games left? Mississippi State, Auburn.
LSU.
No, LSU's at home.
LSU's at home. That's right.
So is it Mississippi State and Auburn? Is that it?
I think so.
Surely that's not it. No, we're missing. We got to be missing one.
Well, I know New Mexico State's at home. Are we missing anybody between them? Tennessee.
No, I'm looking.
Tennessee's at home.
Tennessee's at home.
Mississippi State is on the road this week.
Yeah.
Auburn's on the road. Arkansas's at home.
Who are we missing?
I'm not sure. But Devin, to answer your question, yeah, I do believe if Alabama does beat Georgia, and I don't care if Alabama beats them 30-0. I still
Georgia's
think,
getting in.
Yeah, Georgia's going to get in now.
Yeah.
Now they're in Alabama's seat, where if Alabama had one loss, they was going to make it in.
Yeah, it's just. I'm looking at the schedule right now. At Mississippi State the 16th, this coming Saturday, and then at Auburn the 27th of November. Wow.
See, we have an off week after this week, right?
No, play Tennessee,
That's
a week, then, play LSU.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is.
Go over a month without taking a road trip. That's pretty wild.
And unfortunately, the end of football is getting close.
Yeah, we're halfway done with the regular season. That sucks.
But basketball is on its way, and that team looked pretty good in practice. What I've been seeing, so catchy, and feel bad for enjoying.
I gotta listen to this now.
Oh my!
I've got to listen to this, Steven. I'm gonna listen to it, man.
No kidding. I'm gonna have to check this out because I've seen a lot of people talk about it, but I hadn't heard it.
Where have I been? When did this happen?
Over the weekend.
Huh.
I believe. Any chance I break out the Run the Ball t-shirts? I think that's already copyrighted by an Auburn fan. Sorry. No.
But
yeah.
Yeah, we got to feed Brian Robinson. Anyways, we talked about that enough. Well, we're fixing to head out. We've went 45 minutes or so. We appreciate everybody that tuned in on the chat. Devin, Anthony, Steven,
Steven.
Cassidy, whoever else was in there. We really appreciate that. Make sure you go and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, and we would greatly appreciate that. Jump in the comments on our past videos on YouTube, and just give us your thoughts on anything that kind of helps out as far as YouTube's algorithm on how they kind of distribute out what they recommend for people to watch when they search for Alabama football. So we greatly appreciate that. Make sure you do head on over to betonline.ag for all your sports betting needs. Devin says we appreciate you, Devin. Appreciate you,
Thanks.
Anthony. Roll Tide, fellas.
Roll Tide, Anthony.
But anyways, we appreciate everybody listening. Jake, I don't have anything else to add. If you don't, we can kind of wrap this up with a bow, put this Texas A&M loss behind us, and get ready to beat the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
It's behind us. Yep, let's get it on.
All right, guys, we're about to head out. We appreciate everybody listening. You can follow our podcast on Twitter at Tide Talk Pod. I'm on Twitter at Blackwood89.
Of course, I'm at Jake Thomas TTS.
All right, guys. Hey, and also make sure you join our Facebook group as well. Just search the Tide Talk Podcast, and just request to join it, and we'll let you in. And we appreciate everybody that listens to us and supports us. It means a great deal to us because it's a lot of fun to do this. Sorry about my kids earlier, but I mean, it is. Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
I just want to say one other thing. Stacey, I believe you have a new segment you're going to start doing maybe once twice a week to keep up with. So
thank you, Jake.
So, no problem.
Like this is probably why I haven't heard of that song yet. Because, anyways, but yeah, I'm going to try to do a couple, at least one a week, maybe two a week. Tide Talk in 10, where I just real quick catch everybody up with kind of what's happened that week, or what's coming up in the next couple of days. So just be on the lookout. That's why you need to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss any of that. And we've made it to 100 subscribers, so we greatly appreciate that, man. That means a lot to us. Thank you. So here's to the next 100 and the next and the next till we get to thousands and thousands of subscribers, and we certainly appreciate that. All right, Jake, let's head out. We appreciate everybody. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.